Story 1. One lonely Saturday night, after being single for a few years, I posted a generic "Who wants to hang?" message on Facebook. My close friend's much younger sister, who was also a coworker of mine, responded. I knew her pretty well and had hung out with her in group settings a few times. She even went with me to a play at the school where I was substituting a few months earlier. She was taken at the time, but other than that, we had no one-on-one time. She was newly single when she responded to the post. I literally said out loud, "Forget it," and went to pick her up to watch a movie at my place. I was nervous because I didn't want her brother to find out, but he was away for the week, so I figured that even if something happened, he would never know. So we went with it. One thing led to another, and 12 years later, we are happily married. When her brother found out about our relationship a few weeks later, I was nervous to tell him. He was not happy. We didn't really talk for a while, but that changed, and now we're one big happy family. Story 2. Speed dating. I am pretty introverted, and it is hard to get out of my comfort zone. I ended up giving it a shot, and the fact that I built enough confidence to take the leap was a reward on its own, as it makes taking the next step easier. I did not even care that I got no matches. Story 3. The girl at the bank was the best and worst experience of my life. I loved her, lost her, learned from her, and still appreciate her and what we had, even though now it is over. I am waiting for my next decisive moment to see where it brings me. Story 4. Quit my job for something with a pay cut, but it is better and less stressful, 100% worth it. Everything in my life is better now. Story 5. My current relationship. I was still on the I am being single right now kick, but a girl I knew since high school came back into my life. I was not going to wait and hope I had another chance in a few more years. So I said, forget it, I will do a relationship again. 12 years later, it was definitely worth it. Story 6. I am very introverted, but I have made every single friend by initiating conversation first, because most people tell me I am very intimidating. It is hard to branch out, but I have rarely regretted pursuing a friendship, even when it is far outside my comfort zone. Story 7. Started a construction company instead of the low-paying job options that my Bachelor of Science in Biology allowed. It was financially the best decision I have ever made. Even though it was a difficult road, it was amazing to build a company from literally $150 in my pocket by myself. Jobs started small but felt huge to me. I began with $100 handyman jobs, then moved to $2,000 jobs with one person, $5,000 to $10,000 jobs with a crew, and now I am managing $500,000 plus jobs with up to 10 crews on any given project, generating several $1,000,000 in revenue per year. It has been a wild ride, but definitely worth it. Story 8. I had no experience working with computers. The information technology department wanted a new desktop technician. I applied and said I did not know anything about computers but wanted to learn. Luckily, the telecommunications director walked into my interview to ask the person interviewing me about a server room migration they were doing that weekend. I volunteered to help, worked 13 hours, and got the job. That was 12 years ago. I am still in information technology, making good money and love what I do, all because I was tired of being a call center agent. Story 9. I spent my teens in Australia. I moved back to the United Kingdom a couple of months before my 18th birthday. A couple of years later, I used the money earned from my first real job to go back to Sydney, catch up with my friends, and have the clubbing experience I never got the first time around. I had an excellent time for 2 weeks, and on the last night before my flight home, it was one of my friend's birthdays. A different friend group from the friend I was staying with. I had a decent amount of Australian dollars left and went crazy. I dragged the friend I was staying with along. Anyway, the birthday party at the same clubs we had been in the previous weekend wound down. The friend I was staying with still wanted to stay on, so we met back up with his friends, including a girl who had taken me back to her place the previous weekend and to whom I lost my virginity. She kept offering beer to me and my friend, but her interest for the night was someone else. At some point, my friend left, but I was still trying. It didn't work. It got to about 1 in the morning, and I was ready to head back. My friend was already home. The buses had stopped. I only had 10 Australian dollars in my pocket, some spare cash back in my suitcase, but no taxi would accept the fare. So I sat at the bus stop wondering what to do. Then I thought, the bus route is a pretty straight line. How hard can it be? Friends, I tried to walk from the Sydney Central Business District, down the Western Distributor, across the Australia and New Zealand Army Corps Bridge into Rozelle. This is a dual carriageway in the middle of the night. Very quickly, the footpath I was on suddenly looked a lot like a central reservation, which was quickly running out. I wondered why cars were beeping at me. I got to the end, stopped, and suddenly the gravity of my mistake hit me. I turned around to go back the way I came and found a police car parked on the central reservation. The officer got out. "What are you doing out here, mate?" "Trying to get back to my friend's house." "Where do you live?" "England." "Right. But my friend lives in Rozelle. It's my last night here." "Have you had much to drink?" "A little bit, yeah." "Cool. Do you mind just coming over to the car so I can put these cuffs on?" "Cheers." I chilled out, leaning on the bonnet while they called another car over to take me back to my friend's house. I got in the front seat, cuffs off, making small talk with the officer. I sobered up enough to give him directions, but not enough to avoid saying, "It's only because the taxis wouldn't take my $10 note. Thanks for the lift. Do you want the $10? "Wait, no, that would be bribing a cop." Forget I said anything. I got back without incident. I debriefed my friend, got told off by his dad for not calling him, and then endured the longest 30 hours of my life flying back to Heathrow with the worst hangover imaginable. Was it worth it? Yeah. I didn't die, and it's basically the only anecdote I have. I probably would not want to try it again, though. Story 10. Applied for an internship at a large satellite manufacturing company because why not? Worked in the clean room for 2 months. It was a great experience. Story 11. I dated a woman in her 30s when I was 20. She was very attractive, and the sex was incredible, still unforgettable for me. The woman was a bit unstable, though. It's hard to explain, but things got strange quickly. I ended up alone again, wondering what I had just experienced. Totally worth it. Story 12. My mom handed me a mail recruiting letter for the United States Marine Corps that I could send back for free identification tags. I spent 4 years in service. Story 13. Totally worth it. Back in 1996, it was early summer. A couple of friends told me, "We are going to work for Ford Motor Company for a month and a half in September. They're launching 2 new models to the press here." Fast forward to September. At a bar, these guys said, "We are starting tomorrow. We can't wait. They just told us today how much we are going to make for a month and a half of work." It was seriously a large amount of money, and we were like 22-year-old kids. I was supposed to go to Amsterdam with a friend, but I told myself, forget it. I'm going to show up at the place tomorrow and see what happens. So I showed up. There were about 40 kids my age and some big shots from an advertising agency representing Ford. A lady grabbed a list and started to call people. Everyone was there, of course, but in the end, she said, "Did I leave someone out?" And bang, there goes me. "Yes, ma'am, here I am." "Oh, I apologize. What's your t-shirt size?" "Here." Grab a uniform. Hired on the spot. I canceled my trip to Amsterdam and got to drive cars for a month and a half, shuttling journalists and photographers around the area. The cool part, 2 months later, was seeing the cars we had driven and abused featured in most major car magazines. Man, what a blast! It helped to finance my first solo vacation to the United States. Story 14. Taking a 6-month contracting job in Australia, which I had never visited before. Still here 15 years later with a beautiful wife, 2 children, universal healthcare, secure employment, and I have barely aged a day due to the lifestyle. My friends back home look unwell, are always stressed, and sadly there is nothing I can do to help their situation. Yes, it was definitely worth it. Story 15. In high school, there was an older girl who attracted my attention, so I joined the running club because I wanted to see her run. However, I ended up becoming really good at long-distance running. I ran my first marathon in 4 hours and 30 minutes, did another the next year, and by junior year I was running 3 marathons a year. In senior year I completed 4. My best time was 3 hours and 45 minutes at the Long Beach Marathon. What started as a casual interest turned into a serious passion, and I became an accomplished runner. I lost interest in the original reason for joining after the second day of training. Story 16. I was fed up and tired of everything going on in my life at 24. I decided to quit my job, pack my car, and move to Idaho to start fresh with no real plan and nothing lined up. I just wanted to get out and see what was out there. That was 8 years ago this week. I now have a great career, great friends, met the love of my life, got married, bought a house, and we are expecting our first child. The best thing I've ever done for myself. I highly recommend leaving your hometown where you don't know anybody. Story 17. A friend of mine is from Taiwan and kept saying I should come visit. One night, after a few beers, I decided, what do I have to lose? I booked the trip. I boarded a 16.5-hour flight to Asia alone with no idea of what to really expect. I spent 2 weeks there, and it was one of the most memorable, eye-opening, and life-changing experiences I have ever had. I enjoyed every second of that trip, and I cannot wait to go back someday. Story 18. Got dumped by an ex. Despite being a poor student in high school, I decided to take a nice class to meet women. I then took 2 classes the next semester. Hey, I'm not too bad at this. I quit my job and went full-time. I earned a 4-year degree in a popular major and met my future wife. All because I got dumped, was bored, and decided to take a night course for the heck of it. I earned a graduate degree too. Everyone I tell this story to thinks I was very studious and ambitious. Oh no, not at all. Story 19. Wrote down a wedding date wish June 26th at 6 p.m. I decided to give it a shot. Met a girl a couple of weeks later. We dated for 6 months and got married on June 26th at 7 p.m., missing the goal by 1 hour. We have been happily married for 15 years. Story 20. Dropped out of the rat race. It had to be done. I was just getting bullied by everyone and was utterly depressed. Now I spend 12 to 14 hours a day in bed, go for a walk, get some food, come home, cook, watch cartoons, and sometimes browse Reddit a bit. Story 21. Started dating a man who told me, let's hang out and see where it leads. I have been crying for days and am about to end what I got myself into. Story 22. I joined a mixed martial arts gym and walked to my first ever grappling class at 5 a.m. in the pouring rain. It was an attempt to try something slightly appealing and was good for me. Luckily, I ended up enjoying it and have continued for the past 3 years. Story 23. Grilled Brussels sprouts. Apparently, the commonly grown species have changed, and they are not as bitter and unpleasant as when I was a child. Also, they taste much better grilled with butter and herbs. Story 24. Live theater acting. I was at a card tournament at a comic book store with a friend who was a director for local theater. She told me she knew someone working on a play where one of the actors suddenly quit and they badly needed a replacement. I auditioned, got the role, and after that show, I worked 7 straight years in live theater, about 1 or 2 shows per year. It was an extremely rewarding experience. Story 25. Spent 2 weeks as a solo traveler in Japan in 2012. I was tired of waiting for my friends to travel with me. It was the best trip ever. I spent time in Tokyo, Osaka, Hiroshima, and Kyoto. I still think about this trip every week. Story 26. Join the army. I was on the verge of being homeless and had failed out of college with a low grade point average. I joined, got my life together, went back to school and earned a high grade point average. I am a nurse now and doing well. I did not love the army, but if you do your part, it can really pay dividends. Story 27. 2 years ago, I changed jobs after 27 years. I figured I would stick it out for a year, and if I did not like it, I would just retire. I actually love my new position and regret not taking a chance on something different much sooner. Story 28. The last time my father tried to hit me with a belt, I grabbed it before it touched me. He growled at me to let go, and I told him that I would let go when he could take it from me. He never hit me again. Story 29. Telling the police officer that I do, in fact, know exactly why they pulled me over. and I was not expecting them to be so strategic with their choice of observation post-deployment. I still received the ticket, but it was much less expensive than it should have been, and the officers were unavailable for the trial, so it was dismissed. Story 30. Guns N' Roses came to town. Tickets were very expensive. The cheapest seats were far from the stage. I always wanted to be close enough to see Slash's sweaty top hat. Who gets to be nearest to the stage? Security. I searched for the agency providing security for the show, found the group, applied, and got in. They sort you by height, so the tallest people stand stage side, facing the crowd. I was assigned in front of the crowd, facing the stage. Technically, the closest facing the band. It was glorious. I got paid, free meals, the best free rock concert ever, and ticked off a bucket list item. Story 31. Took a huge risk and left the country for a job in an incredibly unstable part of the world. It was one of the best things that I had ever done in my professional and personal life. Story 32. I was recently divorced and not in a relationship. I was asked to help out in my company's home country for several months to assist with a large contract. 24 years later, I am still here. Story 33. Moved to Europe for a job that I thought was my dream job. 5 years later, I love living in Europe, but the job was the most traumatic professional experience of my life. Luckily, I have found a way to live in Europe and am currently working on starting my own business. Story 34. Frustrated with quarantines, I went to Lima, Peru during the pandemic to discover ceviche and study Spanish. I couldn't speak a word but dove in deeply and quickly to learn. I met many women. I could barely speak a single word of Spanish, but they didn't seem to mind. I had more sexual encounters than ever before in my life. A constant, endless supply of eager ladies. It was astonishing, a revelation. This level of opportunity must be what attractive women experience every day. I went back many more times with diminishing returns. Peru will always be a special place to me. But that first trip was a game changer. Not all for the best either. It warped my attitudes related to women and traditional cultures and made me rather jaded. But I learned a lot. Still recovering. Story 35. I joined the United States Marine Corps when I was 26. It was exactly the change I wanted and needed in my life. I loved being a Marine. It also led to me meeting my third wife, with whom I will celebrate our 40th anniversary in 2 months. Story 36. I was broke and thought I would try visualizing wealth and money since I was broke. I had 30 pounds in Bitcoin and joined a random Telegram channel. I made a kid laugh one day, and he invited me to moderate his channel. I agreed to do it for free because he was a good kid, and I was not sure what I was doing. Then he said they would pay me. The tokens were in a pink sale cryptocurrency that was worth £6,000 and $500 per month. Fast forward 1 year, the tokens are worth £400,000, and I make $1,500 a month moderating. This happened just from what I believe were visualization techniques. Story 37. I was working in industrial sales and giving boxing lessons as a side job. One day, I found out that one of my students' fathers worked in the video game industry. I reached out to him for tips and potential introductions because I was looking for a change and I was also a total enthusiast about video games. That was 18 years ago, and it has been the best career move ever. I got in at the right time to attend many electronic entertainment expositions, travel the world, and witness the birth and death of many consoles and games. Tomorrow, a book I co-wrote with a colleague is being published, and it is largely thanks to that person, who is still a friend, who took the time to give me a chance. Do not get me wrong, the first years were tough, but the biggest rewards are always at the end of the toughest journeys. Story 38. Absolutely terrified of heights, I was jokingly dared to free climb a cliff once. Something just clicked in my brain and I went for it. It was absolutely terrifying, but I remember getting to the top and just sitting there, thinking about how I had conquered my biggest fear. I probably will never go skydiving, but I do a lot of height-related activities now that would have frozen me in fear years ago. Story 39. I gave a blowjob to my friend when I was 13. I told him it would be interesting to know what it feels like having it in my mouth, and he said I could try it. Then it happened as you described. I decided to give it a shot. thinking I might not have another opportunity to know. Was it worth it? I don't know, but I wouldn't change it, so probably yes. Story 40. Had this several times in my career. Every time I thought that someone believed in me, I gave it a shot. Yes, it was worth it. Story 41. I was recruited for a job overseas and moved out of the country. I left my wife behind. It has been very difficult. She took everything from me. However, it is worth it. Story 42. Long-distance online relationship. Ended wasting my best dating years on a screen with someone who didn't have the courage to break up with me. It was just distance until there was complete silence. Story 43. In 1996, a band I liked was going on tour in a few days, and their bassist quit. I had never met them, but through mutual connections, I was recommended and invited to fill in despite them never having heard me play. I had 18 hours to learn a 3-hour set of original songs, then fly to their city for a single 4-hour rehearsal before leaving the next morning for a 6-week tour. This was the first time I toured with a band. A month after it ended, I went out with them again for another 2 weeks. Story 44. I got drunk one night and applied to graduate school because I was working a dead-end job after finishing my undergraduate degree. I was accepted quickly and enrolled because I received grants for my first semester. I dropped out at the end of the semester when one of my old college friends offered me a construction job that paid twice as much as I could make with a master's degree. Story 45. Got handed guild ownership of a small guild on a private World of Warcraft server years ago. I had no experience managing guilds and very little experience playing the game in general. I ended up leading the biggest English-speaking guild on the server, with moderators essentially on speed dial. The guild was so popular that I did not have to do any recruiting because it sustained itself through the active members. Story 46. Saw my high school crush at a party after 10 years. Gave her a wink. Whatever was about it, we went home together. It never worked before or since. We dated for about 6 months. Story 47. These are very old. The most recent example is from almost a decade ago. I asked some people on the internet if they wanted to be friends even if they did not know me. Yes, it was very worth it and mostly led to good things, but only one of them still talks to me consistently at this point. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.